Okay, in our last video we discussed the different properties of multiplication. We discussed the commutative property, which is the one that says it doesn't matter the order in which you multiply numbers, it's always going to give you the same product. The identity property states that anything times 1 is itself, and the zero property states that anything times 0 will be 0. This property is a little bit different. This is the distributive property. And it states that you can break apart problems into simpler problems, and it just makes it easier for us to work out. So we're going to be breaking apart numbers. Okay, here's a good example of the distributive property. I take my problem 3 times 21. And I want to break it apart into 2 simpler problems so that I can add it up. If I break anything apart, in order for it to come back together, I have to add. So I'm going to break apart the 21 because 3 is easy to multiply by. However, 21 is not that easy to multiply by. So I'm going to leave the 3 the same when I break it apart. Whereas you see 3 here, 3 here, 3 here. But I want to break this 21 up into 20 and 1. You want to take the larger number and break it up into more manageable parts. That's why I took the 21 and broke it up into 20 plus 1. 20 plus 1. I'm just taking the same problem and making 2 simpler problems so then I can solve this one, I can solve this one, and I can add them back up. When I solve this problem, I have 3 times 20. Now, as you know, we've gone over it before. When you multiply anything with the 0 and the 1s, you can multiply by the 3 and the 2, and then you can add the 0 back to it. So 3 times 2 is 6, and I'm going to add that 0 right to the end. So 3 groups of 20 equals 60. Over here, we know anything times 1, as stated in the identity property, is itself. So 3 times 1 is 3. Now I would just add 60 plus 3, and I get 63. So my product for 3 times 21 is 63. I just broke it up into more manageable numbers so that I could solve it. So on this problem, we're going to find 8 times 4. We're going to break apart the 4. Now I could choose to break apart the 8. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. If you don't know your 8 facts and you rather break apart the 8, then that's totally acceptable. However, we're going to do 4 on this slide. So I have 8 times 4, and I'm going to break the 4 up into 2 plus 2. See how my 8 remained the same in both smaller problems. Over here, I just have a picture of 8 times 2. I have 8 going down and 2 across. 8 times 2, 8 going down, 2 across. 8 times 2 gives me 16. 8 times 2 gives me 16. So therefore, 8 times 4, because these two 2's added together gives me 4, is 32. 16 plus 16 is 32. All I'm doing is breaking it apart into 2 easier to manage problems and then bringing it back together. Here we have 3 times 4. Now I'm going to choose to break apart 4. Actually, I'm not sure. I have this set up, but I said 4 is staying the same. I have 4 here, I have a 4 here, I have a 4 here. So I'm not breaking apart the 4, so I must be breaking apart the 3. Well, how did I break apart the 3? Well, I have a 1 here, and if this was blank, well, what plus 1 gives me 3? Exactly, 2. So 1 plus 2 would give me that 3 that I broke apart. 3 times 4, if you don't know the product of that, you can solve these 2 simpler problems. 1 times 4, remember the identity property says that anything times 1 is itself, is 4, plus 2 times 4. 2 groups of 4 is 8. So now I have a simpler problem, 4 plus 8. We all know that 4 plus 8 is 12. So that means my product to 3 times 4 is 12. Down here, I broke apart the 7 because the 9, 7 times 9, I have 9, I have 9. Oh, excuse me. I broke apart the 7 So this is a 9, that stayed the same, then that would be the same. But this is not a 7, and this is not a 7, so that leads me to believe I broke the 7 up. Therefore, the 9 remains the same. So I'm going to have 9 in both of these. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 3 times 9 is 27. Now, if you can't add those large numbers in your head, I suggest coming out to the side. 36, 27, draw my line, my addition symbol. 6 plus 7 is 13, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So that shows me that my product for 7 times 9 is 63. Now, if you don't know that multiplication fact in your head, distributive property is a great way to solve multiplication facts that we don't know by heart yet. It gives me 63. Let's try this one together. 8 times 7. You can choose to break up either one. I would normally stick with the larger number, break that one apart. So I'm going to break apart the 8. Well, what do we know when we break apart 8? We can break it apart evenly into 4 plus 4. So, I have 8 times 7 equals 4 times 7, because I broke the 8 up into 4, plus 4 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 7 is 28. Now I would add up 28 plus 28, which would give me 56. If you don't know this large multiplication fact, use the distributive property to break it apart and add it back together. Now you try this one at home, and then come class tomorrow prepared to discuss this problem and practice some distributive properties problems. Thank you.